Yes,
to another episode of Rewriting Her Story. Oh, he started the TV and I was like, what the fuck is that noise? So, my dear, this is episode 39.
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say 40 and I was like, no, we only recorded 2 yesterday. Yep. So this is episode 39 and we are going to talk about something that gets us fired up.
Grinds my gears.
Grinds my gears. Knock it the fuck off. Okay. Let's just start there. Let's out of the fucking gate. Jump to that.
It could be a very unpopular opinion, if I'm being honest. People are going to have some shit to say.
It is going to be an unpopular opinion. And you know what? I'm here for it. Yeah. I am here for the discussion. I am here to talk about this. By no means do I think our opinion is the right opinion or the only opinion. However, as therapists, it is our duty to have this conversation with people. Mm-hmm. And we are going to try to have it in a very productive way. We are going to try to not let the irritation, that emotional mind take over, because it's like, I'm like pushing it back right now.
I'm already
getting
do
it. Don't do it. Don't.
Yes.
Let people express themselves. So today we're going to talk about TikTok. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, we're going to talk about therapy advice, diagnoses, the videos, if you have, or if you experience, then you may have, blah, blah, blah. Anything in the therapy realm on TikTok, that's what we're addressing.
Yes.
We're not addressing anything else. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to be really appropriate. I want to have a discussion about how I feel that it is unproductive when people without a degree, we're going to start there first, people without a degree, go on TikTok and make videos that might look like, if you suffer from inability memory hyperfixation on food, memory issues, can't complete a project, you might have ADHD. Here's what.
I'm sorry. I wish you guys could have seen. You'll see her face in the video.
You'll see it in the YouTube if you watch the YouTube. Here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to give advice on maybe what you experience. If you have, hear me when I say this, if you've been formally diagnosed, we're not going to talk about what you experience and apply that to somebody else, because we are all different. We all experience diagnoses differently. If you have not been formally diagnosed, fucking stop.
Sit the fuck down, please.
Stop it. Sit down. Sit down. I get that you want to, I get that there is this want or need to connect with people. I get that. Do that then. Start a group. If you suffer from these issues, let's start a group together. Maybe we can strategize. Do not apply it to a diagnosis. You don't know that. You do not know that. The brain is so complex. Because you're suffering from something doesn't mean that somebody else is going to. And again, I get that want to connect with somebody. However, that is so, and it can be, let me say, not it is so, it can be detrimental to someone's health, because then they are latching on to this idea, because this feeling or want or need to belong in that primitive brain that is still part of our brain, wanting to be in a group or a herd, because if we're not going to survive. It's 2021. You're not foraging for fucking food. You can go to Piggly Wiggly and pick up a sandwich and call it a fucking day. You don't need to be in a group to survive. Can you get lonely? Absolutely. But your primitive brain can sit down. You can tell it, it's 2021. I'm going to be okay if people don't like me, or if I don't connect with somebody in the next couple of weeks. Going to an app and eliciting this advice or these suggestions is so harmful, because then people are operating in this thought process of, oh, this is what I have. And if not done with a therapist, then it can start to be this excuse of, well, it's because I'm like this.
It's one thing, like Mari just said, it's one thing to share your experience and say, I was formally diagnosed with XYZ by a therapist, and in my experience, this is what I have. It's another thing to advertise that you know how to diagnose people, or that you know for a fact all of these symptoms is this disorder. I went to school for 2 years to learn how to diagnose people. I have worked in the mental health field for 11 years diagnosing people. I have the background to do so. I'm not going to get on the internet and say, even with my degree, I'm not going to get on the internet and say, like, if you meet this criteria, you have this. That's irresponsible as fuck.
So irresponsible. I'm 7 years into being a therapist and I still get diagnoses wrong because they present so differently.
Mm-hmm.
Diagnoses are ever changing as you're getting these puzzle pieces from people to put together their whole picture, this whole story. Somebody who could have came in presenting with anxiety symptoms really could have past trauma that was suppressed that is now coming forward. Somebody who could have looked like initially that they were suffering from depression could be suffering from ADHD because of this long sustained inability to complete anything. So then it's internalized as like, oh, I'm a failure, I'm this. So then they start to get irritable and possibly depressed. Like, but that's just a symptom. That's not necessarily the diagnosis. Like you don't know.
Well, and here's the thing with
ahead.
symptomology is that, yes, there is symptomology. There's also timelines, you guys, like
Yes.
having a symptom for an extended period of time. Like there are rules to diagnosing. It's more than just saying I have this, so I probably have this.
Yes.
And what frustrates me is initially, I don't have TikTok at all. I see what people repost on Instagram and that's how I know. It was initially very frustrating for me with my teen clients who were latching on to people's stories and creating a story for themselves based on that. I see it with adults too. It's not just with children, but children are so impressionable and they want to feel seen and feel heard. And so they latch onto these things and then they come into session with us and we're having to like untangle that ball of yarn. Mm-hmm. And it's so frustrating because I'm like, this could have been prevented. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because then it could appear as if we're being dismissive about
Yes.
what they're feeling. And that is a very frustrating and fine line to walk. I don't want to say that's not what you're experiencing, despite me maybe being able to have the clinical knowledge to be like, that doesn't add up. That doesn't
Yes.
match. But then it feels like it can feel like for them, this dismissive nature of like, well, you're not even trying to hear me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's after so many sessions with so many clients, it's like, it's like sometimes I feel like we're back in the very beginning of the pandemic where we had to have that same conversation with people like for 6 fucking weeks of like, yes, this is scary. No, we don't know anything about it. Yes, we have to have radical acceptance for it. Blah, blah, like, oh my gosh, that was so exhausting. And now I feel like we are back into the thick of it of like this wanting to belong or this wanting to have an answer or something. I can guarantee, well, that's a heavy statement. The best way to potentially guarantee that you are going to find an answer or get a diagnosis would be to see a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that every therapist leads with a diagnosis. If you ask them, they have to give it to you. Like when we work with insurances, we have to diagnose you. So if that's something that you're curious about or that you want to know, like ask your therapist. If they haven't told you, ask them. I come from the thought process of like, sometimes it's easier for people to understand, okay, this is what I have. This is my starting point, and this is how I work through it. Mm-hmm. Some people don't necessarily lead with a diagnosis because it can be viewed as like, well, potentially this could mean that this person might use this as an excuse, right? Mm-hmm. So like it's all about the clinician. But again, if you are seeing a therapist, you're entitled to your diagnosis. You can ask. And that could be your starting point. It's such a slippery, dangerous slope, right?
And this isn't just the attitude of you and I, right? We talked about it in staffing at our job. Yes. And every clinician had an experience like this, where somebody came in and was like, well, I saw this thing on TikTok and I think this is what I have. I talked to a medication provider. She said the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't want to say infuriating because that's a really strong word, but as a clinician, it can make our job harder because like you said, then we're perceived as being invalidating or insensitive when in our heart of hearts, we know that that's actually not what's happening. And what's really
Right.
frustrating too is these diagnoses that people are talking about on TikTok or
Yes.
what, they're significant diagnoses, like
Yes.
heavy
Yes.
diagnoses. And people just sometimes want to have a label for whatever reason.
Like, I can't tell you how many videos I've seen on TikTok about dissociative identity disorder.
Okay.
When I worked in a hospital, a hospital system where we dealt with people who, I mean, I saw the gamut of diagnoses there. I really did. That is the only one I did not see.
I was going to say in my
So now
11
there's just
years,
all of these videos.
in my 11 years, I've had one client out of the hundreds, and
Yes.
I noticed it, but then it was backed up by one of the psychiatrists at my job who was like 80. So he had been doing this for a long time. So I felt validated in knowing, like, if he sees this, then it's real, right? But
Sure.
that's not something that's common. And
No.
the videos that have been sent to me are like people disassociating in video and being able
So-
to show you all their different personalities.
Yes, so I was just going to say, we should have prefaced this. Dissociative identity disorder is where there are multiple personalities inside somebody. There are alters that
It
come
used to be
forward.
called multiple personality disorder.
Yes, used to be called multiple personality disorder, not to get confused with actual personality disorders like narcissism, borderline personality disorder, histrionic, things like that. Those are all set aside. That is just, those are characteristics of your personality, not that you have multiple people in you.
Yes.
So dissociative identity disorder, best way to put it, very theatrical, but best way to put it is watch the movie Split. Again, very theatrical, very great movie, loved it, but very theatrical. It does not it does not present like that, as heavy or extreme as that. But that's a really good way for you to be able to understand what DID is. But people catching their switch online or on a video, stop it. I'm just gonna, because I'm gonna go into my emotional mind right now. I'm gonna get rude. I'm gonna get so insensitive. So I'm gonna stop myself right there. Knock it off. Stop.
Yes.
Stop it. Stop.
It's that
Stop.
paired with Tourette's and tics.
When
So
I
here's the
tell
thing,
you,
I have
when
a
I
family
tell
member
you,
who legitimately has Tourette's. I know what
Yes.
Tourette's looks like. I've had clients who have legitimate tics.
yes,
When you go online and you're telling people that you have these tics and it's evident that they're not real, you're influencing a lot of younger people. But okay, here's the thing. Other people aren't your responsibility, but Jesus fucking Christ, be responsible.
Yeah.
Be responsible.
if anything comes out of this conversation, I hope that it is so that people understand. Again, I can understand and see the thought process behind it of wanting to belong, wanting to feel
Yes.
special, wanting to stand out. I get that. Here's the thing. You're alive. That's enough. That is a fucking enough. Get a therapist to help validate that for you. You are fucking special because you are here. That's it. That's all you need. You just need to take a couple of breaths and you are here. That is special enough. You do not need to tack on other diagnoses or issues or things to make your experience and or your feelings more valid. They're valid. Because what is happening is that you are taking away the severity or importance or attention that needs to go to the people who actually have these disorders. The same when the whole, I'm just going to kill myself. You know, when that all started, I think when we started I think it really started surfacing when I was in high school, and then like kind of heavy into college. And then when I first started being a therapist, it was like, oh my Lanta. It was just a thing with the kids that they would just say. Wow, I just sounded so old. A thing with the kids. But it was like, I'm just going to kill myself. Like it was just the automatic go-to of a coping
It's a
skill.
knee-jerk reaction.
Right. And I'm not talking about people who have impulsive, intrusive thoughts where the thought is, well, I'm just going to kill myself, in the sense of like that they deem themselves unworthy. I'm talking about teens just literally saying it like back in the day out of anger, when things, well, that's gay. Like what? Ugh, irritates the shit out of me as well. So then having that being said multiple times over and over and over, we can go back to the fable of the boy who cried wolf. Like you say it so many times and it takes away the efficacy for other people, and then it goes unnoticed. And then what? Then we miss people who are potentially really suffering and who like it loses its significance. So that's the other important thing, like that everybody does not have tics. Everybody does not have ADHD. Everybody does not have depression or anxiety. Also, please understand that you are a human having a human experience. There are going to be moments where you exhibit all of those things.
Yep.
I gave a public speech a couple of weeks back. Definitely was anxious for 2 weeks. Definitely. Normal, natural. I'm being put in a situation where I'm going to be judged. It is normal, natural. When women around their periods, and that starts coming up, hormonal imbalances, feeling sad, feeling mopey, feeling extra emotional, or just like that it's coming out of nowhere. Like you're not really understanding like, oh, this happened, so this is why I'm sad. It's just kind of like, oh, I just feel overwhelmingly sad. Yeah, normal, natural. We are humans having a human experience. That's going to happen. That doesn't mean that you have depression. It does not mean that you are anxious all the time or have generalized anxiety disorder or social anxiety disorder. It doesn't mean those things.
How many times have you had somebody come into session and say, I watch these videos and I think I have this?
I can't count.
Literally. In the past year, it's been probably the worst because
it is, yes.
Everybody had nothing to do but be online, right? So they went down all the rabbit holes. I feel like Reddit is another one, but that's for a different topic. I don't even go on Reddit. I don't even know what that
I don't either.
But here's the thing. The internet can be a great
I think it's
thing.
a smarter version of TikTok.
Probably.
And I don't mean that rude, but I think it's like,
yes.
Yeah.
Again, you may very well have a diagnosable disorder. You can't do that on your own. I wouldn't go on WebMD and diagnose myself with cancer. Right?
Because then what happens? What happens if you go on WebMD, you search your symptoms? What happens, Stephanie?
It literally tells you have cancer or you're going to die.
Yeah, it brings up all of these things that it's like, what the fuck? Like none of that makes any sense. Like Stephanie and I were just talking. I just went and got my eye exam the other day because I had noticed yellowing on my right eye. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's natural or normal. So I'm going to Google it. So I Googled it and all of these things came up. Fucking, I don't even know if it was eye cancer, but it was definitely like all like liver disease and all of these fucking things. And in my head, being able to rationalize, I'm like, okay, there's no like goop coming from my eye. I'm not in pain. I can see fine. It doesn't feel tight, tense, any of those things. It just feels normal, but I did notice it. It is nothing but fibrous tissue. That's all it is. However, if you're Googling it, all of these random things came up. So then I'm sitting and stewing in, or could be sitting or stewing in all of these things that it could be. And then you're creating.
You sought a professional to verify that information.
Right. So avoid that. Avoid carrying all of those unnecessary emotions when you could just go to a professional and talk through it, and then they can help you. Also, please be open. Excuse me. Please be open for the therapist or the professional to tell you, no, that's not what this is.
I've had multiple sessions such as that over the past like month. And I think I probably came off as frustrated, right? Because I'm like, can you, like, it's a dangerous slippery slope for you to self-diagnose on the internet. And then they get defensive and they're like, I'm not. And I'm like, but you are. So like, let's talk about this and let me go through each one of your symptoms and let me tell you why you don't have that and why it's this, right? Like you are coming to me because you trust my judgment and my abilities. So please trust me when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Right.
Now, what are your views on the professionals who have the criteria and the credentials to diagnose who are on TikTok, in my view, being irresponsible?
I understand marketing and wanting to get yourself out there and wanting to build a platform. This is exactly what we are doing here with a podcast and a YouTube and an Instagram page, right? We are trying to get ourselves out there. We are trying, I would not say famous, but we are trying to get ourselves out there to make this marketable for people, that there is something for everyone, right? I think that we are being extremely cautious in what we are putting out and what we are saying most of the time. I would say like 80% because we're still human, and I can be pretty impulsive with some of the things that I say and then listen back and be like, well, like, I don't know. I think it is extremely It's an extremely fine line to walk between
Mhm.
putting content out there that is informative and
Yes.
helpful, and content that it appears, my perception, that you're just trying to follow trends and making things that are going to fit in the algorithm to
Mhm.
boost your page. And that is infuriating.
Mhm.
I will use that word for professionals. It is infuriating
Mhm.
and exhausting. Like, you are supposed to be one of us.
Mhm.
You are supposed to be in the trenches with us. What is, and like, here's a thing that I don't feel like is talked about enough. And I think this probably comes from my love language, words of affirmation. Like, we are considered essential workers. We are considered
Yes.
healthcare workers. We have been in the thick of it
Mhm.
since basically December 2019, when it really started to ramp up with COVID-19. There has not been a break. We are inundated with people.
Yep.
Like, receiving phone calls daily. Like, I am to the point where I am so close to being full, and like trying to like move people around and fit them. Your schedule has been tight for I don't know how long.
Mhm.
And there's such a shortage right now. And so to have one of your own be on an app doing these things and posting these videos, it feels like a slap in the face.
Yeah.
It feels so disrespectful. Like, you're supposed to be one of us, dude. Why are you creating more work? We're exhausted.
I also feel like it is 1000% okay to share tools with
Yes.
your audience. Share
Yes.
coping skills with your audience. Share mindfulness skills with your audience, which is what we do. We also share our own story because we believe that that's important.
Yes.
But to share information from a diagnostic tool that you have been taught to use with the world is really irresponsible. I have had
Yes.
clients say to me, "Can I look at your DSM?" And I say, "Absolutely not."
No,
And they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because it's not appropriate.
it has
You're
nothing.
gonna look in that fucking manual like I did when I first got it, and you're like, I have everything. I have
Yes.
everything in this fucking 800-page book. I got it all."
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you grasp onto one or two symptoms, and you're like, I definitely have that.
Yes. And I had a point. I had a point. Oh, you would not go to your dentist and ask to hold the tools. You wouldn't go to your
Or review
doctor.
the X-rays so you can make a
You
diagnosis.
would not go to your doctor and be like, put the X-rays up. Let me see them.
Let me see the blood. Let me see the
Give me
blood
the
test
ear
results.
thing. Give me the ear thing. I'm gonna do it. Give me the blood pressure cuff. What the fuck?
I got this. I read it on WebMD.
Yes.
I know how to do it.
Just because ours is a book doesn't make it any different.
No.
I mean,
Those
I
things take like 25 years to write. Right?
to
Like that's why
revise.
there's only
Stephanie,
there's
to
only
revise.
5 editions, and they've been around for a very long time. Like they take a long ass fucking time to be
Yes.
written and revised, like Mari just said.
I would say in my lifetime, it's been the DSM-4, the DSM-4 like TR, and
Yep.
then now the DSM-5.
Yep.
And I'm
we've had the 5
34.
since like 2010, I feel
Yeah,
like.
I'm 34.
Yeah.
So please, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to my dentist next time. Give me the tool.
Give me that thing. Hook it up. I got it.
You don't need to look. You don't need to look.
I watched
got
a
it.
YouTube video on this. I can do it.
I got it. And then what's gonna happen? You're gonna have a cavity. It's gonna go untreated, and then your dentist is gonna be like,
Told you.
Same. You want to keep thinking you have DID? Fine. Sure, you do. Can I talk to the person who's in charge? Can I talk to the altar?
The other caveat to that is, here's the thing. You very well may have a diagnosable disorder. Okay.
Yes.
You don't have to amp it up using somebody else's story. Your story is valid as is.
Yes.
We will listen to you as is. There is no reason to possibly exaggerate or possibly lie. There's no reason for that. I would tell kids that all the time who I knew were lying about certain things. And I would say to them, your story is enough, right? Mm-hmm. What you're going through is enough. Let's process through that stuff, right? And I feel like not even just kids, everybody spends so much time online, they become consumed with what they're viewing. And then it becomes their reality, which is dangerous.
Yes. Which is why it is helpful to have an unbiased person to check you.
Mm-hmm.
AKA a therapist.
Yes.
So I
And
feel
this
like
isn't to like fully bash TikTok
No.
forever. I'm here for the
No.
TikTok fucking humor, right? I am here for the
I'm-
lighthearted,
Yes.
humorous TikTok.
Yes.
I'm here for it.
And I am here for the therapy side of TikTok that has just validating statements, that
Yes.
has affirmations, that has, you know, you like the you are enough, like you,
Yep.
what you've experienced is valid. I am here for it. I am fucking here for it. What I am not here for is you self-diagnosing yourself on an app, on a social
Mhm.
media app. Stop.
Yep.
I'm not here for it. And I will not stand for it.
Yep. And I will continue to have that attitude about it with my clients.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
not going to change.
Nope.
So
I think we beat it enough. I think we've
I'm
got
very
the-
curious to hear the feedback on this. So
Got the
please feel
point
free to share.
across. Please,
Feel
hey,
free to share.
again, we are open-minded. If
Yes.
there is something that you are like, you know what, that doesn't fucking sit well with me, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know. We are here for it because we are two people who have two opinions
Yep.
and we have biases, right? Like as a therapist, that's a bias towards what is being shared. So
Mhm.
share your thoughts, feelings, feedbacks, opinions. We are not going to fucking blast you. We're not going to be like,
Right.
well, Susan doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. No.
Mhm.
Like just because we have certain degrees doesn't mean that we know everything. We don't. We do
Mhm.
not. Okay. We're still learning. So
Yes.
questions, concerns, comments, email us at rewritingherstorypodcast@gmail.com. Go on Instagram, find us at Rewriting Her Story Podcast. Steph is at SpookyFitMom13. I am at BEA_XO11. And I'm missing one. YouTube is Rewriting Her Story
Yes.
Podcast. So if you have questions, concerns, comments, you know where to find us. We would love to hear feedback about this. Yeah.